When Mary was born, she was ugly and the most disagreeable looking girl ever seen. She was given a nickname by other children. They used to call her Mistress Mary quite contrary, and they used to laugh at her. She was handed over to the care of a native nurse which is called an ayah. She always obeyed Mary and gave her her own way in everything. Mary never learned to ask for permission for anything, and she never learned how to be polite. One morning Mary found who stood by her bedside was not her ayah. "Why did you come?" she said to the strange woman. "I will not let you stay. Send my ayah to me." The woman told her that her ayah could not come. After that, Mary knew that the cholera had broken out in its most fatal form, and her ayah had just died by cholera. Mary was very cross. She ate some food and she drank a glass of wine. It made her drowsy and sleepy. She shut herself in her nurse and slept for a long time. When she awakened, she felt that the house was very quiet. She saw a snake gliding along, then it slept under her door. "It sounds as if there were no one in the bungalow but me and the snake," she said. A few minutes later a man opened the door. "Barney," he cried out, "there's a child here. She has actually been forgotten. Poor little kid," his friend said. "There's nobody left to come." Mary was taken to live in her uncle's house. His name is Mr. Craven. There is near 100 rooms in his house, and most of them is shut up and locked. When Mary woke up at her new room, she found a housemaid called Martha lighting the fireplace. After that, Martha helped Mary to get dressed and she prepared breakfast for her. Martha suggested on Mary to play in the gardens around the house. "One of the gardens is locked up. No one has been in it for 10 years, said Martha, and she told her she had a brother called Dickon who plays in the gardens. Mary went out to play because she thought she might meet him. She saw a man in one of the kitchen gardens who is called Ben Witherstaff. Ben whistled a soft whistle, then a robin came flying near him. "He's my only friend," said Ben. Mary liked the robin a lot. When Mary returned home at night, the wind was blowing hard. "Do you hear anyone crying?" she said. "No," said Martha. "It's the wind." Mary stared hard at her. She did not believe that Martha was telling the truth. The next day it was raining, so Mary couldn't go to play in the gardens. She decided to see the shut-up rooms in the house secretly. She did not ask for permission. She visited a lot of rooms. She saw them full of furniture and pictures of people on the walls. After she finished her tour, she lost her way to her room, and she heard that crying sound again. She accidentally put her hand on the tapestry near her. It was covering a door which opened, and there was a corridor. She saw Mrs. Medlock coming very angry to her. "You stay where you are told to stay, or you will find yourself locked up," said Mrs. Medlock, and she pulled Mary to her room. After 2 days, the weather was sunny. Mary went to play in the gardens. She saw the robin and she ran after him. He stopped hopping on a pile of freshly turned up earth. Mary saw something that looked like a ring. She went and picked it up. It was an old key. "Perhaps it has been buried for 10 years, said Mary. "Perhaps it is the key to the garden." Mary went to look for the locked garden. She found a door. The key fitted the keyhole. She put the key in and turned it. The door opened slowly. It was the most mysterious looking place anyone could imagine. No one had entered it for 10 years. Mary wanted to make it her secret kingdom. She wanted to plant new things and watch everything grow. She went home happily. She asked Martha if her brother Dickon could bring her some seeds and gardening tools. The next day, she saw a boy with a wooden pipe in the garden. "I'm Deacon," said the boy. "I know you are Mary. I have the gardening tools and the seeds. Let me plant the seeds for you. Where is your garden?" "Could you keep a secret?" said Mary. "Yes, I'm keeping secrets all the time," said Deacon. "I have no garden," said Mary. "I have stolen a garden," said Mary. She led him to the garden. "It's a secret garden. I'm the only one in this world who wants it to be alive." Mary opened the door of the garden. Deacon was very interested. They planted seeds and they did a lot of work in the garden. At night, Mary awakened on the sound of wind and rain. She heard someone crying. She got up from her bed and she went to the tapestry door which she found before. She opened the door and she found a corridor that led to a room. She saw a boy crying on his bed. When she came in, he stopped crying. "Who are you?" she said. "I'm Colin. And you?" "I'm Mary. Mr. Craven is my uncle." "He's my father. Everyone in this house obeys me," said the boy. "I'm always ill. I have to lie down. I don't let people see me. If I live, I may be a hunchback." "If you don't like people to see you, do you want me to go away?" said Mary. "No, I want to hear about you." Mary told him when she came, and she told him about Deacon and the secret garden, but she didn't tell him she entered it. Colin was interested about the secret garden. The next day, Mary and Deacon planted seeds in the garden and they were working hard. The garden was getting alive every day. Mary was getting stronger and fatter. She wasn't as ugly as before. She was getting prettier and more polite. After a few days, Mary told Colin about the secret garden. "I had seen it and I had been in," she said. "I found the key and I got in weeks ago, but I didn't tell you. I didn't because I was afraid I couldn't trust you." Mary and Deacon took Colin to the secret garden on his wheelchair. Colin liked the garden so much. They went there every day. One day the garden Benwether staff saw them in the secret garden. "How in the world did you get in?" he shouted, but he stopped shouting when he saw Colin, because he knew that everyone has to please him and do everything he orders because he's the young master. Colin told Mary to lead him to the garden. Colin ordered Ben to keep the garden a secret and not to tell anyone about it. Ben helped them in the gardening work. Colin also did gardening work. He was getting stronger every day. He didn't use his wheelchair at the garden. He was becoming healthier and stronger. He wanted to keep it a secret because he wanted to surprise his father. When he went home from the secret garden, he was taken on his wheelchair, so no one at home knew he was healthy, except Ben, Mary, and Dick. Colin, Mary, and Deacon were playing in the garden and making noises. Mr. Craven heard the noises in the garden. Mr. Craven was eavesdropping behind the door of the secret garden. He heard some whispers of the children inside the garden. He heard a quick, strong, young breathing of a child who was running fast. The door of the garden opened suddenly and Mr. Craven found his son standing tall and healthy. "Who? What? Who?" Mr. Craven couldn't believe his eyes. "Father," said Colin. "I'm Colin. You can't believe it. I scarcely can myself. I'm Colin." His father hugged him. He was so happy. Mary wasn't contrary anymore and Colin became strong and healthy. Deacon as usual was friendly to everyone and they lived. 더는 다가갈 수 없어 내게 이런 마음